The bell rang sharply across the schoolyard, echoing through the crisp autumn air. Children ran past each other laughing, their voices filling the space like a joyful storm. But in the far corner, near the worn-out wooden bench under the oak tree, sat Ethan Miller, a 10-year-old boy clutching his small backpack to his chest. Ethan was quiet, too quiet for most kids his age. While others laughed, played soccer, or talked about their favorite YouTubers, Ethan sat alone, tracing circles in the dirt with a stick. He wasn't unfriendly, just invisible. "Hey, Ethan, wanna play?" one boy asked half-heartedly once. Ethan smiled shyly, shook his head, and whispered, "No, thanks." He wasn't trying to be rude. He just didn't believe he was good enough, not at games, not at art, not at anything. His teachers often described him as the sweet one, the polite one, or the quiet boy with sad eyes. But inside, Ethan's heart carried a deep loneliness, the kind only a child who doesn't believe in himself can feel. At home, things weren't much brighter. His mom, Sarah, worked 2 jobs to support him after his dad had left when Ethan was 6. She loved him fiercely but was always tired. She'd smile through her exhaustion and say, "Ethan, you're perfect just the way you are." He'd nod, but deep inside he didn't believe her. One rainy afternoon, Ethan stayed late after school. His class had been practicing for the annual talent show, something he had no intention of joining. But as he walked down the empty hallway, something drew him toward the music room. He peered inside. A piano sat in the middle of the room, soft light from the window falling across its keys. No one was there. He hesitated, then walked in. He sat down, his small fingers trembling as they touched the cool ivory keys. He pressed one note, then another. The sound echoed gently in the quiet room. He didn't know how to play properly, only what he'd seen on YouTube and remembered from his dad's old lessons, years ago. But something magical happened. His fingers began to move on their own, clumsy but heartfelt. A soft melody filled the room, hesitant, pure, and full of emotion. It was the kind of tune that felt like tears turned into sound. Ethan closed his eyes. For those few minutes, he wasn't the shy boy in the back row. He wasn't invisible. He was alive. And that's when someone clapped. He froze. His heart raced. Standing in the doorway was Ms. Harper, his music teacher, a kind woman with curly brown hair and eyes that noticed everything. "I'm sorry," Ethan blurted out, jumping from the bench. "I didn't mean to." But Ms. Harper smiled. "Ethan, that was beautiful." He looked down, cheeks burning. "I was just playing around." "No," she said softly. "You were expressing something. Do you know how rare that is?" Ethan shrugged. "I don't think I'm good." She walked over and sat beside him. "Ethan, do you know what music really is?" He shook his head. "It's not about being good. It's about being honest. And you, my dear boy, were completely honest just now." Those words, completely honest, stayed with him long after he went home. Over the next few days, Ms. Harper invited Ethan to come by after class. She taught him the basics of piano, showing him how to read notes, how to feel rhythm, and how to breathe between melodies. Every time he played, Ethan's confidence grew, not much, just a little flicker at a time. He began smiling more, even humming quietly to himself. One afternoon, Ms. Harper said gently, "Ethan, I think you should perform at the talent show." Ethan nearly dropped his sheet music. "Me? No way. I can't. People will laugh." Ms. Harper smiled. "Or, maybe they'll listen." Ethan shook his head, his stomach twisting. "I'm not brave. Like that." She leaned closer. "Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's doing it even when you are." That night, Ethan sat at the small keyboard his mom had bought from a thrift store years ago. His fingers touched the keys. He imagined the audience, the lights, the stares, the judgment, and his chest tightened. He wanted to believe in himself. But believing was the hardest part. Then he looked at a photo on his shelf, him as a little boy sitting on his dad's lap while his father played the piano. His dad had whispered back then, "Music will always listen, even when people don't." Ethan smiled faintly. "Okay, Dad," he whispered. "Let's do this." The gym buzzed with excitement. Parents filled the seats, kids chattered nervously backstage, and bright stage lights flickered over the curtains. Ethan stood in line, holding his trembling hands together. His mom sat somewhere in the crowd, her tired eyes scanning the stage with pride and worry mixed together. "Next up," announced the host, Ethan Miller, performing a piano solo, The Light Inside. The crowd clapped politely. Ethan stepped out. The stage looked enormous. The piano gleamed under the lights. His knees felt weak. He sat down, staring at the keys. His heart pounded so loudly he thought everyone could hear it. The whispers in his head screamed. Greater than, "You'll mess up. They'll laugh. You're not good enough." Then, through the bright blur of the audience, he saw Ms. Harper nodding at him from the sidelines. And in the front row, his mom mouthed the words, "You can do it." Ethan took a deep breath. He pressed the first key. The sound echoed, soft and fragile at first, then stronger. Each note carried a piece of his story, his loneliness, his hope, his love for the father who'd left, and his belief slowly blooming again. The gym fell silent. No one whispered. No one laughed. Only the music filled the room, warm, pure, glowing. Halfway through, Ethan closed his eyes, letting his emotions flow through the keys. He didn't think anymore. He felt. When the last note faded, there was silence. Then, a wave of applause. Loud, thunderous, real. People stood up. Ms. Harper clapped, tears in her eyes. His mom had her hands on her heart, crying and smiling at once. Ethan blinked in disbelief. For the first time, he saw it. People weren't looking through him. They were looking at him. And they saw him. After the show, students surrounded him. "Dude, that was awesome. I didn't know you could play like that. You made me cry, man." Ethan's face turned red, but his heart soared. His mom hugged him tightly backstage. "Ethan, I'm so proud of you," she whispered, voice trembling. "You did it, sweetheart." He smiled shyly. "I was scared, Mom." "I know," she said, wiping her tears. "But you did it anyway. That's what makes you brave." That night, when he got home, he placed the small participation medal from the talent show on his desk. It wasn't gold or shiny, but to Ethan, it felt like victory. He sat at his keyboard again, playing the same song softly. But now, he wasn't playing to escape. He was playing because he believed. A week later, Ms. Harper called Ethan and his mom into her office. "I have some exciting news," she said, smiling. "A regional youth music competition is coming up next month. I'd like Ethan to represent our school." Ethan's eyes widened. "Me?" Ms. Harper nodded. "You have something special, Ethan. And I think the world should hear it." His mom squeezed his shoulder, whispering, "Say yes." Ethan hesitated. The old fear crept back, the fear of failure, of not being enough. But then he remembered that night, the applause, the feeling of being seen. He took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll do it." The weeks that followed were intense. Ethan practiced every day, before school, after dinner, sometimes late into the night. His mom would peek into his room, smiling through her fatigue. One evening, a sudden storm hit the town. Lightning flashed, and the power went out. Ethan's keyboard went silent. Frustrated, he sat in the dark, tears filling his eyes. "I can't do this," he whispered. "I'm not ready." Then his mom came in with a candle. She placed it next to the piano and said softly, "Then play for the light." He looked at her, confused. "When it's dark," she said, "you don't stop. You play for the light, even if it's just one candle." Ethan wiped his eyes. Then he played, quietly, beautifully, by candlelight. The storm roared outside, but his melody was steady, like a heartbeat refusing to give up. The day of the regional competition arrived. The auditorium was huge, hundreds of seats, bright spotlights, cameras rolling. Ethan's heart pounded as he walked onto the stage. He could barely see the audience. He sat down, hands trembling. He whispered to himself, "Play for the light." Then he began. His fingers glided across the keys, slow at first, then faster, building with emotion. Each note shimmered with everything he'd been through, the loneliness, the fear, the courage, the hope. The audience was silent again, moved not by perfection, but by truth. When the last chord faded, Ethan looked up. The crowd rose to their feet. He'd done it again, not just played, but spoken without words. A few days later, after the competition, a letter arrived at their small apartment. It was from his father. Sarah opened it first, her eyes widening. Then she handed it to Ethan. "Greater than, dear Ethan. I saw your performance online. Your mom sent me the link. I don't know if I deserve to say this, but I'm proud of you. You played the same melody I used to hum when you were little. I heard your heart in it. You've grown into someone brave, someone who plays for the light. Love, Dad. Asterisk. Ethan held the letter to his chest, tears streaming down his cheeks. He whispered, "Thanks, Dad. I forgive you." Months later, Ethan continued to play. His videos started gaining attention online. Kids who once ignored him began talking to him. Teachers praised his kindness and strength. But fame or praise didn't matter. What mattered was what he'd found inside himself, something he never thought he had. Belief. One evening, he stood by the same oak tree at school, listening to the laughter around him. This time, he smiled and joined the game. He wasn't invisible anymore, because he finally saw himself. And deep down, he knew, the shy 10-year-old who once didn't believe in himself had become the boy who played for the light.